Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show where we discuss comics, movies, games, and more. My name is Ronnie, and today I'm going to be reviewing Marvel Spider-Man 2. That's right, this is the game that I've been wanting to review for quite some time, and today is the day. I'm sorry I didn't get to review it a lot sooner. I'm sure all of the reviews that you were looking for out there by other content creators, they already posted, their reviews already, and I know it's a little late for me, but I had stuff going on and I had to, take care of it. Of course, it was very important to me, and here I am finally reviewing it. Now, this review, the way I'm going to decide to do this review is the first half is going to be spoiler free and the second half will be spoilers. So I was debating about doing two separate videos where one is a spoiler free video and one is a spoiler video, but I think that would have taken too long, and I think it would have been just unnecessary at this point. We're already about 3 weeks past the launch of Marvel Spider-Man 2 already, and I think it's pretty safe to discuss spoilers. So with that being said, be sure to follow me on my social media. Links are in the description box below. And let's go ahead and talk about this game. Now, do I think this game is a masterpiece? You know what? I have made such claims like that in community posts and tweets where I said the game is a masterpiece. But actually, the more I got to play it, because I'm also playing it in ultimate mode, the more I realized that it's not exactly the masterpiece I thought it would be. Is it the ultimate Spider-Man game? Is it like the best one I've ever played? Yes, but how can it not be a masterpiece but you think it's the best Spider-Man game? Well, I'll explain in just a moment, but first let's talk about the spoiler-free stuff. I'm going to be as vague as I can, and then we'll get into the spoilers. So the game really opens up with, a certain popular, well-known villain in the Spider-Man Rogues Gallery, causing destruction in the city. And you got to go out there, and it pretty much sets the game moving forward. You got your standard classic Insomniac Games Spider-Man little side missions, which are pretty well done and very creative when it comes to that. Because you can actually argue that a lot of the missions from the first games were quite repetitive. They actually took what they did with Miles Morales' Spider-Man game, where you had the phone app, and they utilized the phone app, the Spider-Man phone app, Friendly Neighborhood, and they utilized it really well in this one. And they actually had very different missions for both Spider-Man and to do. So you can actually do them as either Spider-Man. That was actually well done. The performances were amazing. The biggest standout, actually, to my surprise, was Yuri Lowenthal. And I say to my surprise because I thought Tony Todd was going to be like the biggest standout in this game. But no, Yuri Lowenthal, because, as we all know, and you've seen in the trailers, Spider-Man does get the black suit. And that's where his performance truly shines, because the amount of range that Yuri Lowenthal has that I never knew he even possessed is incredible. You actually feel the passion, the anger, the frustration, like even at moments, the horror of the black suit taking over Spider-Man in the game is quite intense, and I was really impressed with this performance. Everybody else's performances, like Mary Jane, Harry Osborn, the actors that played him, what's her name, Bailey. She's always wonderful in everything that she's in. If you don't know, she is fantastic. Like, she voices Mary Jane, and all these actors do the mocap for these characters. Of course, they had models to do the face capture and everything, and that's pretty much it. But the mocap is actually done by the actual voice actors themselves. Najee Jeter as Miles Morales, awesome, really talented guy. As always, I really enjoyed his performance as Miles Morales Spider-Man. And everybody else as well. All the supporting cast, they were all wonderful. I had a really good time. There were some moments that were a little cringe and corny here and there, specific, certain side missions that really felt like didn't really need to be there. And I think that's a conversation for another point, where I'm going to have a big spoiler talk or a conversation with, some of the members of my Discord. So if you're interested in taking part of that, I'll definitely let you all know when that spoiler review is going to be happening. And I want to do that because I want to get people's input about Marvel Spider-Man 2. I feel like, the majority has viewed this game as an amazing game, which I can totally agree to a certain extent. And like I said before, yes, I did tweet out or posted in the community where I said that this is a masterpiece of a game. And I think I might have spoken too soon because the hype and excitement has taken over me. And for that, I do apologize. I sincerely apologize for that, for saying that it was a masterpiece, when really, it's just a phenomenal game. It's a really, really good game. It's very creative. It's really well thought out. It's very detailed, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think it is the best Spider-Man game ever made. But it does come with its problems and its little hiccups here and there, and some things that do happen in the game that I personally just didn't really enjoy, or that I said to myself, that doesn't really make that much sense, or that's a little annoying, or that didn't need to be there. And even if it was there, even if it wasn't there, like, the game would have been the exact same. And that point is actually proven because in certain parts of the world, in certain countries, didn't exactly, allow this to be a thing in the game. And I'm sorry, I apologize for being very vague, but I'll get to it in the second half of the spoilers, which is going to be right, like, in about a few seconds right now. I'm about to get into that. But overall, in my spoiler-free performances, the graphics, the swinging mechanics, the fighting mechanics, everything is well thought out. Even the accessibilities from, like, all the settings and everything that you can tweak was incredibly thought out. And I appreciate Insomniac Games for thinking about everybody when making this game. You can tell there was a lot of heart and passion that was put into this in making this game, and I really love that. Since I've already addressed that Insomniac Games put a lot of passion and heart into making this game, that doesn't mean that this game didn't come without its bugs and issues. Yes, there were quite a few bugs that I did experience in this game, unfortunately. Things that I wouldn't think I would have experienced in an Insomniac Games video game. So one of the bugs that I experienced, or at least crashes, I experienced one crash where the game quit on me. I experienced some other bugs where, like, the lines of characters and the dialogue kept going even though the scene was completely finished. And also another bug I experienced, unfortunately I never experienced the spider cube that a lot of people have posted online. That's one bug I've never experienced at all. And I'm glad I probably won't be able to experience it anyways, because apparently it's been patched and corrected. But pretty much little minor bugs that isn't exactly detrimental to the overall experience of the game. And it's not exactly as bad as people are making it out to be. The ones who actually really went out of the way to hate this game so much, it's really nowhere near as bad, honestly. But that's one thing I wanted to mention in this review. So let's go ahead and get into the spoilers. As we all know, Kraven and Venom are normally they're the big bad of this game. But in the posters, it shows that Venom is. And that's true to an extent, because Venom is actually the big bad in the second half of the game. And why do I say he's the big bad in the second half of the game? What about Kraven? Well, I was impressed with the actor who played as Kraven, and he did a phenomenal job. And he was a force to be really to be reckoned with, honestly. Kraven didn't mess around, to my surprise. And it doesn't come as a shocker that the game was darker. I mean, is darker than the first, than its predecessor. It is. And Insomniac Games was right. And they weren't holding back, and they weren't lying, that this game is darker. First off, I just gotta say, there's a lot of deaths in this game. Okay? There's even a point where there's actually a lot of gore, or quite a bit of gore, where I feel like an immature rating would have been kind of warranted. So the deaths that do happen, the majority of Spider-Man's rogues gallery are killed off screen. We do witness one killing on screen, and that is the death of Scorpion. Kraven just kills Scorpion easily by using his own Scorpion tail against him and just leaves him there to die. Even when Scorpion managed to actually strike Kraven right here in the chest with his tail to no effect, it didn't stop or slow down Kraven at all. Because Kraven, there is some influence from the Kraven's Last Hunt comics in this game. Kraven is doing his final hunt. He's looking for something and equal to match him. He wants to hunt something down, and that is what he's craving for. I know it sounds like I'm saying that's what he's craving for, but that's what he's actually really craving for his equal. And once he has found that equal, which was there in New York City, it's like, yes, this is where I'll do my final hunt. Kraven has a disease. He's dying, and he can't let that disease take him, because he feels like dying by the death of natural causes isn't a good death. He needs to die by the hands of somebody else, someone who can match him in his might. And that's exactly why Kraven comes to do this absurd, crazy hunt. It's all over the place. Kraven starts with hunting Dr. Connors as a lizard, and Spider-Man interferes, of course. Spider-Man acquires the black suit, and the reason why he acquires it is because Spider-Man actually died momentarily in the game by Kraven's hand, or should I say his blade. And in order, as a last effort to save Spider-Man, Harry Osborn, who is donning the black suit, or at least, donning the symbiote, no spoilers really, it's not really a spoiler, it's in the post-credit scene in the first one, and a lot of us were anticipating that Harry Osborn would end up being Venom, well, it turned out to be true. Harry Osborn was Venom. It wasn't my favorite interpretation of Venom, but there are a lot of aspects about that character in this game that I really, really enjoyed a lot, specifically Tony Todd's performance as Venom, which to my surprise, unfortunately, he wasn't really in the game all that much. He didn't actually have a lot of lines in the game, and it wasn't exactly what I expected it to be. It's both a good and a bad thing in a way, and I'll get into that in a moment. But, the way Spider-Man acquires a black suit, I didn't think he would acquire it in a way where he needed it to save his life. I thought he would acquire it where like he accidentally comes in contact with it and then it gets on him and he's like, whoa, this is amazing. Like, and then it starts to take over, which to a certain degree, it does happen like that in a way where he realizes that the black suit makes him feel amazing. And there was a lot of quotes that there's a lot of things that he does say where like, hey, I actually feel better than ever. I feel incredible. This suit is amazing. And that's where like the friction between Peter Parker and Harry Osborn starts, where Peter like starts to develop this horrible addiction for the black suit, feeling like he needs it. And addiction is really explored really well. And it goes to show where like that thing about where Yuri Lowenthal mentioned that he had to study addicts. I think he talked about that. I could be wrong. To get a better understanding what addicts deal with as far as addiction, I think Yuri mastered that pretty well. Yeah, and here we have someone who's sick, Harry Osborn, going like, hey, I kind of need that suit back because it's the only thing that's actually keeping me alive and keeping me from like going back into like having this disease that his mother unfortunately died of. And Peter's like kind of like brushing him off, saying, no, I still need it. I'll give it to you later. And he's just kind of like brushing off people, including like the ones he loved, like Mary Jane. And it just shows what an impact, at least a negative impact, this black suit had on Peter and everyone else around him. Almost to the point where Miles Morales had no choice but to fight Peter. Yes, Peter Parker is a boss in the game. You actually have to fight Peter Parker in the black suit. And it was the only thing that made logical sense to get it off of Peter. One other thing was like a church bell getting it off of him and him getting rid of it. But no, you actually have to knock some sense into Spider-Man to get the black suit off, which he successfully does after the fight happens, which was a fight that was pretty brutal and actually, heartbreaking in a way. But like I said before, the performances were incredible from like the dialogue that was delivered. Some dialogue kind of came across as like a little forced or a little cringe, or the delivery could have been a little bit better at certain points of the game. And that was mostly in the side missions. But for the most part, it's great dialogue. I really enjoyed dialogue. You really feel the friendships and the warmth between the characters, especially between Peter Parker and Harry Osborn, which they're essentially brothers if you really think about it. Like they are. They're like best bros. They're buddies. Like if you think Peter and Miles are buddies, well, what Peter has with Harry Osborn is basically like blood brothers. And like I can quote Peter Parker towards the end of the game where he's about to remove the symbiote from Harry. Peter says to Harry, "I love you," while he's tearing up. And I thought that delivery was amazing. I mean, Yuri Lowenthal is a total standout in this game. And I think it's his best performance yet as the wall crawler. And as far as everything else goes, there is a city takeover with a bunch of symbiotes, a bunch of civilians who became, symbiotes. They took over the city, and it's exactly what I was expecting in a way, but not really. I didn't think it'd go that far. It didn't go as far as like Web of Shadows, but still, it was quite similar. And it was something that I've kind of seen before, but still different, and I really enjoyed Insomniac Games for their, for doing that. I applaud them for their creativity, and I had a really great time, just playing this game. The boss fight, one thing I would have changed, just like you see in this little poster, this is I have the collector's edition of the game. In this steelbook cover, you can actually see Spider-Man and Miles Morales Spider-Man fighting Venom in the city. What I was anticipating for the final boss fight, which is Venom, is you actually going all over the city and fighting Venom wherever you please. I wanted that, and I think the PS5 hardware could have been very capable to handle something like that. But the critique that I have about this game, where it just isn't perfect, are the boss fights, where it's just you're in a limited space to fight bosses. They brought health bars to the game, which I can definitely greatly appreciate, but The fact that the boss fights were in limited spaces, I'm like, what is this? This is New York. New York is supposed to be your playground. You know, you can fight these enemies wherever you like. I thought that would have been much better, in my opinion. But overall, the boss fights were amazing. They were harder than the previous games. That's another criticism that, you know, a lot of people have about the first game, where the boss fights are kind of easy. And now that you think about it, with all these settings and tweaks that you can make for the game to make it harder or simpler, those, you know, like, settings were actually dialed up to 10 in the first game, if you really think about it. Like the swinging mechanic, you can actually have the swinging assist set to 10, where it's the easiest. I actually had that bitch set down to 0, where it was the most difficult, because I like the challenge. And I went in this game in the hardest difficulty at first, which was spectacular. Now I'm playing Ultimate, which is even harder. And then when New Game Plus comes out, it's going to be even harder to play the game. And I like that Insomniac Games listened to their audience, and they listened to the criticism about the game, you know, being not exactly as hard. And I really loved that. Insomniac Games delivered a pretty challenging Spider-Man game, and Spider-Man games aren't really challenging if you really think about it, but they really did deliver a challenging Spider-Man game, and I greatly appreciate that. And I greatly appreciate that it has so much flexibility when it comes to setting your own preferences in playing a game. And I love that Insomniac Games also did that as well. Everything about this game overall is really good. It's really well done. It's really well crafted. Insomniac Games really put a lot of passion and effort and work into it. The only criticisms I have were the boss fights, certain side missions that just didn't need to be there, that didn't impact the story in any way, and it didn't forward the plot in any single way. An example of a mission that didn't really need to be in the game is of Miles Morales, Spider-Man, helping out one individual who's homosexual, and he wants to ask out a guy to the prom. Honestly, this mission was completely pointless. No, it's not because I have something against the gays. I have nothing against gay people. It's just that it didn't need to be there. It didn't forward the plot. It was just a useless mission. And honestly, truth be told, I don't really think Insomniac Games really cares about the LGBT. Like, honestly, it feels like it was kind of like forced on us, and believe it or not, you can't even beat the game or 100% the game if you don't do this mission. And again, this mission serves absolutely no purpose. And to lend even more credence to that statement, like I said before earlier in this video, there are certain countries that actually banned this mission. So much so that Insomniac Games or PlayStation themselves, I don't know which one did it, and I didn't look it up because I didn't bother doing it, that mission is not available wherever it is. Countries ban homosexuality or, you know, gay couples or whatever. Those missions are not in the game. They're nowhere to be found. Neither are the flags. They have been removed from the game. It just goes to show that it's not really that important to any studios. And it's just evidently clear that studios like this, and it kind of pains me to say this, Insomniac Games just pandered to the LGBT, and it was really frustrating and annoying that I had to do such a pointless mission that served absolutely no purpose. It didn't forward the plot, and it was just really cringe, especially some of the line delivery, like the dialogue and everything was really absolutely cringe. It was just garbage. And you can tell that Brian Intihar and the rest of the team who developed these games had nothing to do with those lines. And it was just a couple of like maybe some weirdos who wrote the dialogue for this. And I'm like, nobody talks like this. This is really weird and really cringy. And I didn't like it. It was terrible. One other thing, Mary Jane taking on Kraven's hunters. Them not being able to hear Mary Jane like sneak up behind them with like a little taser, like a web taser, it's completely unrealistic. I feel like Mary Jane's inclusiveness feels a bit forced. Like, yes, we get it. She's a more than capable woman, but bring back the classic, gorgeous, sexy Mary Jane. Don't bring me this watered down, good value Mary Jane, where she's actually not attractive, and for whatever reason, they ditched the previous actress or the model, or the face model for Mary Jane, and they got a new one who feels like a bit of a downgrade when it comes to like looks and beauty. I don't know what it is about game developers or game studios and movie studios where they feel like they're threatened by a woman's natural beauty. You know, if you look at the comics, at least from back in the day, maybe hell, 20 years ago, Mary Jane was the most attractive woman in the city. What is so wrong with that? Why is it that Black Cat has to be more attractive than Mary Jane? Mary Jane is this hot redhead from the comics that we all know and love. What is so wrong with the woman's beauty? Why is it that we're all threatened about that? I'm not threatened by that, and that's something that I loved about Mary Jane. Here's a hot woman who appreciates Peter Parker, who's like a semi-good looking dude, but not exactly the best looking dude. But he's a superhero, and he's appreciated because of who he is. But anyway, overall, the game is great. I encourage you to play it. I'm enjoying the game, specifically the gameplay and how gorgeous the game looks. I just love it, and I can't wait to play it on PC anyways. But that's pretty much it for my review. I'm going to give Marvel Spider-Man 2 a solid 9 out of 10. It's a great game. It's not a masterpiece, but damn it, it is a solid game, and it's extremely enjoyable if you love Spider-Man, and I think you're really gonna love this game. That's my review, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click on the bell notifications so y'all don't miss anything. And as always, I will see you all in the next comic panel.